So today, we're going to talk about the sentence. Yes, the sentence. We're going to answer that question, what is a sentence? And we're going to begin to talk about the idea of phrases. Think about noun phrases and prepositional phrases today. And in later weeks, we'll look at other kinds of phrases like the infinitive phrase and the participial phrase. So, what is a sentence? A sentence is a word group that contains a subject and a verb, and that expresses a complete thought. So we have really three things going on in this definition. Subject, verb, and importantly, it needs to express a complete thought. That's what grammar does, right? Grammar organizes information so we can communicate an idea to an audience or to someone whom we might be speaking to. So a complete sentence presents a complete thought. Now, under example, I've written the word fragment. And that suggests that there's language there, but it's not. I repeat, it is not expressing a complete thought, no. But you might be saying, oh, Mr. Zimmerbergen, there's a noun there, there's a verb there, right? And that's what you have here in the definition, right? When we're thinking about subject, we're thinking about nouns or pronouns and verb. It has those elements that you say make a sentence, but you say this is a fragment. And I say yes. Yes, that is the case. And let's think about the parts of speech for the words in that fragment, so we understand why it's a fragment and not a complete sentence. And let's circle the noun, which is car, and that verb, fled. All right, so there is a noun, there is a verb there, but it's still a fragment, okay? So we have, just let me introduce this first idea. We have this noun phrase, okay? We have an adjective. You remember what those are called, right? This particular kind of adjective, yes? Articles. Remember the two kinds of articles? Indefinite and definite. Our indefinite articles are a and that, a and an. And since this is the, we know that what we have is our definite article describing the car, along with our other adjective, green. So we have this noun phrase. Okay? And it's true. We have the subject. That part is there. So we have part of our definition of what makes a sentence a sentence. Okay? So we have our subject. So we got a noun phrase. And it does work as a subject. No doubt about it. You are right. But then, you see that word that there? I see it. And I know you do too. That. Remember, we talked about that as serving one of two roles. It could be that as a demonstrative pronoun. And if that were the case, that would be right next to a noun, such as in that car. Right, so car here is a noun, that working as a pronoun, but in this case, a demonstrative pronoun. It's working as an adjective. All right? But here, we have this verb, fled, the action verb. Okay? It's not a noun. That tells me that that is, if you recall, working as a relative pronoun. Remember those? Remember, relative pronouns begin subordinate clauses. Right? The subordinate clause is something that can't be a complete idea in itself. So once we get past the green car, we fail to complete the rest of the definition of what makes a sentence a sentence. So when we take a look at our next sentence, that one that says complete sentence, right? We'll go through the parts of speech there. And I think by the time we finish, you'll see why the complete sentence fits the definition, where the fragment does not, even though they start with the very same words. Okay, so the green car that fled onto the highway became lost in traffic. So your understanding of the parts of speech for each of those words in the sentence will help you to break it up into its pieces. Right? A sentence has pieces. Okay? The pieces allow you to present additional information, right, to complete that idea. So we start out with that noun phrase, the green car. Okay? And then we had that relative clause, that fled. And then we have onto. Do you remember onto? What part of speech it is? What part of speech is onto? Yes, you're right. It's a preposition. That means we're beginning a prepositional phrase. Remember, prepositions are followed by noun phrases, right? So it's going to end, in this case, with a noun, right? And our noun is highway. So that is the end of our prepositional phrase. And then we have this word, became. Go back to what we covered with verbs. We'll come to determine that became is a linking verb. And if we remember, linking verbs link information, right? Link a noun or a pronoun to an adjective that describes it. In this case, our adjective is lost. Now, following that, we have in. Do you remember the part of speech for in? Right. It's a preposition. Again, we're starting a prepositional phrase. It's going to end, again, with a noun. Here it is, traffic. So now you should be able to see all the parts to this sentence. But only a few of the parts are necessary for this sentence to be a complete sentence. Right? So our prepositional phrases, our relative clauses simply add additional information. We can remove from that sentence all of those phrases, all of those subordinate clauses, and still have a sentence. Let's do that. It's going to be dramatic. So hold on. Get rid of all of this. lost back. That is the basic unit of our sentence. The green car became lost. Okay? So once you've identified those phrases and clauses, you should be able to remove them and still have a sentence if you've identified them correctly. And notice how this now presents a complete thought, even though we've taken all that information out. The third sentence there, again, is not unlike the sentence we have left here with the green car became lost. The boy cried. We have a noun, we have a verb. That's all we need for a sentence. That's it. That's it. So I've been throwing around that word phrase, and we've talked about phrases before, but let's have a nice, solid, formal definition. I know formal definitions aren't super exciting, but there it is. We need to know it. A phrase is a group of related words. All right, so when we're thinking about phrases, we're thinking about groups of words. One word is not going to be a phrase. No. It's a group of words that are related, that is used as a single part of speech and does not contain both a verb and its subject. This is crucial. Phrases do not have verbs. While clauses do. Phrases, no verbs. Clauses, they're going to have verbs. So, I've presented to you a simple noun phrase. You should see it on your screen. Noun phrase. It's a noun and all of its modifiers. In this case, this noun phrase is serving as the subject of the sentence. We have the possessive pronoun my. We have elderly working as an adjective. So my and elderly working as adjectives to describe mother. Right? They describe grandmother. So altogether, they form the noun phrase. Prepositional phrases. Again, we've talked about them a number of times. To a certain extent, this should just be review, but I'm going to give you that formal definition. A prepositional phrase includes a preposition, the object of the preposition, and any modifiers of that object. To make it simple, I've reduced that to a simple formula that shows this pattern. There it is. It's all you have to remember with prepositional phrase. It's simply preposition plus a noun phrase. Preposition plus a noun phrase. That is your prepositional phrase. Preposition plus a noun phrase. And you might be asking yourself, why do I need to know preposition plus a noun phrase? But I'm going to tell you. Look here in this example sentence. In the garden, by the house, we planted lilies and tulips. Let's think about this sentence. And one of its features, look at this. Yeah, there's a comma there. Although using a comma at times feels mysterious. Like, why do I put a comma here or not there? I'll tell you, commas and sentence segments. All right, so commas are going to come after, often, a prepositional phrase that starts the sentence, or, although we haven't talked about them too much yet, subordinate clauses that start your sentence. There's no mystery. But they go with those types of phrases and clauses. Right? That's why you need to know this. So in the garden, by the house, we planted lilies and tulips. And notice, two prepositions, in and by, forming this introductory prepositional phrase. And notice how they fit the pattern. All right? Grammar is about predictable patterns. If the patterns weren't predictable when we talk to one another, it would just be gibberish. Okay? So even though you haven't thought about these patterns, they've always been a part of your life. As long as you've spoken English, these patterns have been a part of you. I didn't make them up. They've always been there. Right? So in the garden, look at that. Noun, phrase. Preposition plus a noun phrase. The house. Noun, phrase. It's that simple. Now, if I just had in the garden by the house, period, I'd have a fragment, would I not? Okay. So that comma is important because it links that prepositional phrase to the main clause. Right, so this part here, this is my main clause. We planted lilies and tulips. Now that expresses a complete idea. I have a pronoun working as the subject. I have a verb. And then I have two nouns working in the object place. What did we plant? We planted lilies and tulips. And then we have this conjunction. Grammar is all about predictable patterns. But you have to give yourself that little bit of space to think about what makes for a predictable pattern. You have to think about the parts of speech. And that's not something you generally do.